Initially, John and I were headed into the engine room so he could charge the sprinkler system and we could see those sprinklers in action on the car deck. I asked a couple questions, and the sprinkler charging quickly turned into a full engine tour with John. So here we are, headed down the stairs. So these are, how many pumps are there, John?
There's two pumps, one for the main sprinkler pump, sprinkler system. This is for the fire hoses. Fire hoses, you just turn it on and it charges the fire hoses. The main sprinklers for the car deck, you gotta come over here, flip on the breaker. So the sprinkler pump here.
Yeah. And then that activates this main pump?
Well, it turns the power on and then we turn it on here. And that will charge the car deck sprinklers.
That looks like a heavy duty pump.
That is a very heavy duty pump.
So the sprinklers, you say car deck sprinklers, there's sprinkler systems for every...
No, just the car deck.
Just the car deck.
Yeah.
So that's really where the fire's most likely, right? There's no kitchen, so a galley fire's not happening. So you have a car, because there's always cars. A car might light on fire, or an engine or a gen set in here.
Yeah, or something in a trailer.
Oh, gotcha. And there's no... I tried to bring a small boat over once, and it had like an external gas can, and that was a no-go.
Yeah.
So that gets taken.
Yeah.
What kind of engines are these? They're Cat V12,
V12 cats.
And how much horsepower do they make?
Oh, probably about 700 apiece.
Okay, so you got 1,500 horsepower, something like that.
With
And
two generators.
so here's the generators, right?
Yep.
Are they V10s or V8s?
No, they're just sixes.
Oh, just a big V6.
Yeah.
And Nate was saying yesterday that these are commonly used in like a large like bulldozer or excavator or something like that. But these have been repurposed for marine.
Yes.
So the exhaust system. Can you point out the exhaust in here?
Exhaust comes out back of the engine back here. It's everything wrapped in the gray
Is exhaust.
blankets. Yep.
And that's like, is that fiberglass? Or is it?
No, it's a heat shield.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it's made out of.
And then these compressors, right? There's compressors over here that start the engines.
Yep.
So
On each side.
they're diesel, so they're run on compression, so you can turn them over with compressed air.
Yep.
Right? It's worth noting my misunderstanding of how this engine starts at this point. The air does not go directly into a cylinder. The air is fed into a pneumatic starter, and that pneumatic starter uses the air to start the engine. How many RPMs do they idle at?
About 500. 550.
Do you know? And then these are the... We go over this real quick. Is that a... I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah,
It's all labeled.
It's all labeled.
And so what this is, you have turbos, right? Are they supercharged and turbocharged?
No, just turbo.
So you have so the turbo has its own set of gauges.
Yep.
And then this is for what's this one for?
The coolant and pressure of the fuel and water temperature, batteries.
And then, oh, look at fuel filter restriction, oil. So these are blockages?
Yep.
So that shows like that you
once
have...
it gets too high, we'll have to replace the filters.
Oh, so by monitoring any blockages, you can tell the condition of your filter.
Yep.
Gotcha. In this clip, we can see the gauges as the engine is operating. And then I was watching this gauge, and it's a V12, and it was given when Nate said the temperature of the exhaust per cylinder.
Yep.
So there's a temperature sensor, like, is it close to where the exhaust comes
so the
out?
sensor is, I thought I seen it, is right here. Right off the head.
Oh, I gotcha. So it comes off the head,
Yep.
and every 12 cylinder has a temperature sensor, and then that's linked to this gauge, and you can scroll through them and reset and everything. Here you can see the cylinder temperature gauge in action. It's cycling up through the cylinders, and below that you can see the average temperature of the cylinders. What are these guys?
That's the coolant. That's what cools the engine. It runs to the bottom of the boat and runs all the way up on the bottom and then back down. So the lake temperature will cool the coolant and cool the motor.
It's this raw, it's filtered fresh water, raw water.
Yeah.
And so it's not glycol.
No.
It's not closed loop, it's open.
No, it is a closed loop. It runs in channels along the hull and back down.
Are they called keel coolers?
Keel coolers, yeah.
And it comes in the sides, and then, so when you, okay, gotcha. Dang, look at that.
You want me to start it so they can see the air?
Sure. I mean, I'm not gonna say no to that.
So first thing we do is turn it on. And then main thing before you start any engine is make sure we have oil. And the oil sticks here. Clean. Check it. It's good.
Gotcha.
So then we turn the power on to auto.
And is the engine going through checks right now?
Yep. So then we
Whoa.
yes, it's
That
loud.
startled me, actually. So then you got, you got the portable. That's probably not going to do much down here, right?
No.
Because you're going to have like 900 degree gas or like, what's the coolant temperatures? Do you know?
Coolant runs probably about
Well, it's probably below boiling, right? Because the coolant is water.
so it's probably like 180.
Okay.
The coolant would run
Okay.
normally.
And when we started that, you hit the switch and air from the air compressor came in directly to the cylinders and started moving them.
It comes to the starter here.
So that's a pneumatic starter?
Yeah.
And then that is like a car starter, except it's pneumatic. So it's geared and it's got a flywheel on it.
Yep.
And is that air intake?
Yes, these are for fresh air for the motor.
Okay, and then you label them.
Yep.
So those labels, It looks like.
That's when the filter was changed last.
Gotcha. How often do you? Is it hour? Is it based on an
Hourly.
hour?
It's based on hours.
And then these are also based on hours?
No, those are the fill filters. It's based on restriction again.
Oh, these valves show.
Yeah. And
Will the pressure be high or low when it's restricted?
it'll be high.
Okay. And then you change the fuel filters.
Yeah.
The pressure drops again. And this will indicate as well.
Yep.
So you have this analog one.
Yep.
This is super analog
Yeah.
because it's like connected
So
right to the
these
filter.
ones mostly contain to these two. This one will contain to the fuel filters on the motor.
Where are
So
those?
There's
John, this is epic, by the way.
So right here's the fuel filter for the main. So we'll have two. We'll have these ones here.
It's kind of the
Our
pre-filters.
Pre-filter, and this is before it goes in the motor right here.
This one doesn't have a label on it, so it kind
No.
of, it's less. Like
We
the
would go
pre-filter.
for hours on those. So pretty much anytime we change the oil, these are the oil filters here, we'll change the fuel filters too at the same time.
Are there multiple oil filters? Is there like a pre-oil filter and then a main oil?
No, on this motor there's just one big fuel filter or oil filter too.
And then these down here, these are rate cores, right?
Yep.
They separate water from diesel.
Yep.
And is that 1 and 2, engine 1 and engine 2?
No, that's 1 and 2 filter. We can switch over if we're running, if we're underway and we get bad fuel or water in the fuel, we can switch it over by moving this one way or another.
Oh, I see.
So that would be 2 and that would be 1. So it's that easy to switch over without stopping a motor or.
And you can physically see water in the diesel, right?
Yeah, when there is. We got pretty good fuel, so I've never dealt with water in our fuel here.
And then these bowls, you can reach down here and let water out, and will it drain into this bowl?
Yep.
So
Well, not really. There's a caulk right here, and you would put a bowl under that one and drain the water out.
gotcha. And the water will separate. It's heavier than diesel, so it'll separate down here.
Yep.
And marine diesel's red,
Yep.
and like a bulldozer diesel is yellow.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything that's on the road would be yellow.
Okay.
Green is color.
And these are. Is that the fly? I thought it was a fan, but it.
No, that's the flywheel.
So that's the flywheel.
Yep.
It's like 5 inches thick. These are pretty reliable, huh?
Yes.
The other. And then, oh yeah, this was like cylinder. What was this?
So that's the steering. That's what runs the steering.
And this,
Oh, that.
yeah.
That's crankcase pressure. So you kind of like zero pressure in the crankcases, so that gauges how much pressure is in there, and usually it's right around 0, a little bit above 0.
What would happen if it gets high or low? Why would that be?
So most of the time it's a high crankcase pressure, and that's not good for the motor, so we would have to go on the computer and figure out. They'll send codes to either this will give us a code, or on the computer will give us a code and then tell us why there's a high pressure in the crank.
Like if there was a valve issue or
Yeah.
something like that, or some like maybe one of the springs or something was starting to give out. And then is this one, two, what are these?
They're the heads.
Okay. So these are the heads.
Yep.
I'm used to seeing one big head cover
Yeah.
with like 4 cylinders, but each cylinder has a head cover.
Yep.
And then these are...
The eco vents.
Gotcha. Oh, is that a fuel rail up there? What's that up there?
The fuel rails are right here. You can see each injector.
Okay. And all of these injectors you can monitor through the laptop.
Yep.
Right? So all the cylinder temperatures and everything, and coolant temperature.
Yep.
So the cylinder temperature, the exhaust temperature rather, coolant temperature, all the different pressures in the, or what's monitored in the fuel rail. Is it pressure or?
The pressure of the fuel. And it'll also show the gallons per hour it burns and how much fuel it's burned over the whole life of the engine.
Oh, okay. Wow. So does the engine come with a brain, or you have to hook a brain up to the
You gotta
engine?
hook the brain. So what it is we hook this up to the engine right here. It's hooked up to the motor,
Yeah.
and then it comes to our laptop over here, which will show everything.
Yeah. I caught a glimpse of it yesterday, but both engines and generators were running, and we had like noise canceling headphones on or something, and you couldn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Then I just saw something here. Do these take vibration out? Like the engine vibrates a lot, and these are like rigid steel pipes, so these help.
Yeah, it helps take the vibration off, and easier to line stuff up when you take it off and on, if you ever had to get in there or do anything.
Like sucked up like a
Yeah.
dead squirrel or something.
Yeah.
Critters go in the exhaust and things like that in here, and you turn the boat on and you see
They
like a dead
could,
duck.
But I've never really seen them in the exhaust. Most of the time, if we lay it up more than, for the winter, we cover up the exhaust with buckets or,
So
yeah.
this is rodent control essentially,
Yeah.
right? You got to keep any living creatures out of the systems,
Yes.
because these engines are so big. Like the fuel vents, the fuel tank vents all have metal screens on them, right? Do you have, they talk about in Coast Guard curriculum flame arresters and like flame screens on exhaust. Is that something that pertains to this engine?
Not this one.
Not really. They exhaust here.
Yep.
That's the main manifold.
Yep.
And it's big. It looks like it's 16 or 18 inches tall probably under there.
Yes.
And then you got, so these red bells, these are connected to the 6 big cans upstairs, right?
Too.
And so Captain Brian was saying that there's temperature sensors within the engine room that fire alarms, but don't fire the system. They'll fire alarms, and then you check with the screen, look for smoke, look for fire through the monitoring system, and then there's like a sequence of events, right? Like you get 30 seconds to get out of here.
Yes.
Is that the light that tells you got 30 seconds?
No, this is the alarm. So the heat sensor's here, and one of the fire alarms there.
Heat sensor, fire, and is this a general alarm, or
No,
is
this is more for
pilot house alarm?
yeah, for the alarm panel up there, like if there's high water in the bilge or low pressure on the shaft seals, it'll flash that light.
Low pressure. Will you show me the shaft seals? Hello. What you? And these shaft seals are notoriously kind of finicky, right? Because you're spinning a prop shaft hundreds of thousands of times.
So
Probably
here's
millions
the
of
shaft
times.
seal back here. They're dripless shaft seals.
And it's that stainless steel plate.
Yeah.
And then, so we had 2 drives. Oh, wow. You have, I see there's a hose going into it right
So
here.
that are these pumps here. We pump water into the shafts by turning the pump on.
And it's this pump, it sounds like? Does that cool the seal?
Yep. So that pumps water in the shafts to cool the shafts while it's spinning and underway.
Into the inside of the
Yep.
shaft.
Yep.
So they're hollow. They're stainless steel, but they're like, I think I saw one in the yard up there over at your lot, the old drive shaft.
Yep.
And it had like a inch diameter hole, something like
Yep.
that. So the whole shaft, basically up to the end, up to the engine, fills up with water
Yep.
and cools.
Yep. So it'll push it through this black hose right here, and then out the bottom of the shaft there. On the
Wow.
outside.
So is it a 2-way? Is it just a hollow, or does it have a channel that goes like it goes in and out? So you always have cold water.
Yep.
And it's again, it's like filtered raw water from Lake Michigan, essentially.
Yep.
And all that stuff. Does the Coast Guard inspector come down to this engine room and like really tear it apart and grill you guys?
Yes. Most of the time they do. Yep.
That's a big air compressor.
Yes.
What was is that? Is this air? This pipe here?
This is all air. It goes to the main starter, and we also have a secondary starter on this side.
So you have a main and everything's redundant. So you have a main starter.
And this is, if the main starter goes out, we have a second one on this side on both engines.
What's this?
So that's where we fill the oil up with for the mains.
Okay. So you bring a 55-gallon drum down here and crank it.
No, we got like a water hose here that this hose here will take down. This will fill up any of the motors.
Okay, gotcha. Where's the end of this hose? So you got this end.
This end.
Does this plug in, or does
No, we
that
ju-
go into the engine?
Yep, we just open this up and then pull the handle and it'll start filling oil.
Where's the other side of this? It goes
So-
over to a pump.
It runs through this pump into our oil tank right here, which will show you how full we are.
Oh, I
We're
see.
about 3/4 full.
Just like you have a gas tank, you have an oil tank. So you can take. So if you did get a delivery of like 55-gallon drums of oil, you just pump those all at once into your main tank.
Yep.
Do you have a oil discharge, like used engine oil
Yep.
tank as well, where
our-
you can store and then they come and get it?
Our storage is right here. You can't really see it, but it's underneath. We would open this, put this in, and dump our used oil in here.
How many gallons is this tank, do you know? Big enough for both engines a couple times? And
No, not. When we do the main engines, we'll pump it out into barrels on deck. This is more for underway stuff.
okay.
If we have to change any of these, we would dump it in there.
You need a place to put it. You can't like cut the top off a 2-liter or something.
No.
And then these look like they have some heat sinks on them on the outside. And so this is the electronic engine control and the clutch drive unit, it looks like. And those just, it's pretty much self-explanatory. That's what they do. Is it the brains or like kind of the nervous system of the engine, essentially?
Pretty much. This would. This controls the steering more, and that's more for the engine controls.
Okay, gotcha. What are these up? What are these up here?
So these are another codes for the engine. If anything goes wrong on the engine, these will flash codes, and you look it up in the book, and it'll pretty much do the same thing the computer tells you.
Again, redundancy.
Yeah, there's.
And then you have, this looks like a,
That's just the chart for what each label's for.
okay, gotcha. And then I've seen this up in that pilot house
Yeah.
too. So a lot of all these, this gauge is replicated up in the pilot house.
Yes.
Not this one,
No.
but the main. So you could see if you have, all of a sudden you feel it running rough. You can see if you have restrictions and you need to come down here and
Yeah.
and take some action. Cylinder. Oh, this side is, you can see the head covers, right?
Yep.
And then is this,
That's the air intake up there.
so air intake.
Yeah.
And then here's, it's a V12, it looks like.
Yep.
And then exhaust over here.
Yep. Exhaust, the air intake, and the turbos back here too to push in the air.
Oh,
It's right there. Yep.
nice. Do you know how many pounds of boost it pushes?
I am not sure on that.
Yeah, even if you knew, I wouldn't really know what that meant.
I mean, if I told you.
Let's see. What is this? Looks like it goes.
So that would.
Block heater.
So yeah, there's always, the engines are always warm. We keep the block heater on all times. Not when it's running. When it's not running, we'll turn the block heaters on so it's always warm. So in case we gotta start it.
Right, because you guys run until essentially Christmas.
Yeah.
And then the ice starts to build up and
then we're done.
yeah. Gotcha. Oh, is this a fan? Is that or is that another flywheel?
That's another flywheel. That's
Does it have a fan or it's all liquid cooled? There's no.
It's all liquid cool.
So you try to run a fan in here, it's just gonna blow everything around and
Yeah.
suck the air out of everything.
We got two fans on each side to push fresh air in, one there and one on the starboard side too.
Is this exhaust system, is that what comes out on deck? You know, there's a spot by the stacks you can stand and it's super warm.
No, so what happens is we push fresh air with these two big fans, and then it goes up the stack up where you come in on the stairs, and then the warm air gets pushed out to where you stand out there.
So these are bringing, I think I missed something. These are bringing air in.
In, fresh air in.
Where does the air get, what pushes it out? Just the air coming in
so
pushes it out.
It's pretty powerful. I'll turn one on for you just so you can hear and feel how much air is coming in at one time. Ready?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So with that air coming in, it pushes all the air up.
Oh.
All the way up here, and that's where you would stand way up there up on the upper deck. and
Okay.
stay warm.
So if you're standing up on the upper deck of this vessel, you get hot air coming out a big vent, and that's where it goes
Yeah.
because of the fans.
Yeah.
Here's the stack where the air comes out of the engine room. You stand by this, it's very warm. I can't think of anything else, John. Can you? There's one other thing over here that had to do with, is this for you or is this Coast Guard regulated thing?
It's more for us.
And it keeps track of all the filters,
Yeah.
all the
filters and the other engineers, phone numbers, the guy we got to call for fuel.
try to not get those phone numbers up there.
And then there's few engineers on the boat, and if we ever have any questions or something going on, we'll write it on the board for the next engineer to see. Or
Gotcha. So you kind of keep your team, use the knowledge of the whole team
yep.
to keep the status of the boat right. What are these?
So this is pumps for the toilets. We got
Okay.
pumps for the toilets. This is a pump for the water for the sinks.
Does the toilet macerate or does it just go into a tank?
It goes into a tank, and then there's a pump in the tank that macerates it when we pump it out of the tank.
Ah, so the pump itself does it.
Yes.
Cool. And this is like your standard water pressure tank.
Yep.
So things come out of the sink.
We're gonna get a way to do a man overboard.
Thank you, John and BIBCO, for that in-depth engine room tour. Hopefully the footage is useful for crew training going forward.